Hi, this is Colin from the Endurance Collective, and this is part 2 of my 30-hour training week planning videos. As a coach, I really understand the importance of planning as much as I can. I realize I can't account for everything, but the more I can plan, the better in terms of being able to make the decisions necessary on the fly that I'll have to do. So let me show you the training plan I put together for my 30-hour training week. Alright, so what you're looking at here is a screenshot from Training Peaks. Let's just take this day by day. On Monday, I have a strength training session. This is not going to be anything crazy. This is just a 1-hour lifting session. I've had a lot of issues in the past, specifically with my back. And I really want to continue the strength training year-round, including in my more difficult weeks. So that's the reason for that. You'll also see a 2-hour endurance/recovery ride. That is because I lift at the EC Center in Durham. It is normally about a 45-minute ride by bike each way, so I'm just going to tack on a little bit of extra time to that ride, take the scenic route there and back. I live in Hillsborough, North Carolina, so use that as a warm-up and cool down, but nothing crazy there. Tuesday, I'm going to be doing an interval session in the morning, 4x10 minute sweet spot. Not a crazy high-intensity workout, but it's a good one that I like to include in my base period of training. I may do that on the indoor trainer. I may decide to do that outside. We'll see how the weather is and how I'm feeling. And then I'm going to tack on a little bit of extra endurance to bump that up to about 2 hours. And I'm going to do a fast group ride in the evening there. That is a local group ride in Durham called the Tuesday Night Street Fight. It's a pretty hard loop with a couple-minute climb. We go hard up, and it tends to be a small group, so I'll be in the mix there in the pace line for a while, and then there's a sprint at the end. Include the rides to and from that ride, it ends up being about 3 hours. Wednesday, going to do a 2-hour endurance ride in the morning. That might be on the gravel bike or the mountain bike, just for a little bit of variety and to get in the woods a bit, work on some skills. And then I'm going to do another group ride. This one will be in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's called the Hammer Ride on Wednesday night. And that also includes some hard hills, and then a sprint at the end. Include the ride to and from, and it ends up being about 3 hours. Thursday, I am going to do I have it listed as a 5.5-hour endurance ride. I'm going to be riding a Century that day. I have a nice route that's local here, but keeping it at endurance. I may try to leave early if it's looking like the weather's going to be hot. Friday, I'm going to do a 2-hour endurance ride and a short, about half an hour core workout there. Again, with that endurance ride, I might do that on the gravel bike or the mountain bike if I'm feeling like I want some variety. Saturday, I will do another group ride in Chapel Hill. This is called the P Ride. This normally takes me door to door about 4 hours, but I'm going to add on just a little bit extra there. And then Sunday, I've got a 4-hour endurance ride. I may decide to tack on a little bit more there if I'm running short on volume for the week, and I may do a little bit less than 4 hours if I don't, if I'm over the time already. Now, a couple things I'll just address initially with this plan that smart viewers might be concerned about. One is that I've got 3 group rides here. That's a lot of group rides, but I do like to include these on weeks when I know that I'm going to be very tired, because I have a little bit more choice. When you're doing a regular interval workout, you either hit the numbers or you don't. With a group ride, I can choose to sit in a little bit more if I'm feeling really tired, or if I'm feeling good, then I can decide to go harder. The second thing that might be of a concern is I do have my strength training session scheduled for one of the easier days on the bike, so that is essentially knocking out one of my potential recovery days. That is something that a lot of coaches would recommend against, including our head strength training coach Liz Rayner. But for me, in this week, this is just going to be the time when I am most likely to do that workout and do it well. It is notable, though, that I'm not doing any super high intensity intervals the next day, so I'm not too worried about it. And of course, you will notice that this is a lot of volume in addition to 30 hours. I've got almost 1,300 TSS, so it is a big week, and it'll end up with a projected TSB, training stress balance, of minus 53. That is very low. So I'm going to want to make sure to have a good recovery week the week afterwards and recover well from this week. Otherwise, I might get in trouble. All right, now, so I'm just going to quickly go through my list of major concerns for this week and give you some notes about my plans to deal with those. Number one, as I've mentioned before, is my back. Now, long term, I am working with Liz Rayner to use strength training to help identify the root problem, which I believe comes down to a classic cyclist problem with glute activation and glute strength. But that's a long-term solution. In the short term, there isn't a whole lot that I can do. I am going to do a strength training session this week, but the long-term solution there. Short-term, I am going to do activation drills, glute activation drills before every ride, every workout. Basically, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and just spend 5 minutes working on glute activation specifically before I ride. I am going to do some foam rolling, and I'm going to be sitting on the lacrosse ball after my training or at night. And if my back really starts to hurt during rides, I will pull over on the side of the road and stretch a little bit. Now, in case you're wondering, that will not count as training time. I am not as worried about this week in terms of back pains as I would if I were doing a race, in particular a long race, because what really seems to cause problems is when I have to go really hard. So I'll pay particular attention to that on my intensity sessions, in particular the long group ride that I have on Saturday. But most of the intensity sessions that I have, they won't be too long. So, okay, number two is nutrition. And basically, I'm just concerned about eating enough, even though I wouldn't mind losing a few pounds. This is not the time to do it. This is a big training week, and my main priority is good quality training. So I'm going to be paying attention to my weight, but more for the sake of hydration, to make sure that I'm staying hydrated, in particular with these double days. And I'm going to weigh myself before and after every workout. And I'm going to try to drink 24 to 32 ounces per hour during the rides, planning stops. But I'm also going to try to have 24 ounces of fluid within a couple hours of each workout per pound lost. So if I lose 2 pounds on a ride, of course that's water weight. I'm going to try to drink 48 ounces within a couple hours after that ride. And if my weight loss is more than 4%, so on the high end, I'm going, which is going to end up being, about 6.5 pounds for me or so, then I will take some extra precautions. I've got a super hydration mix that I'll throw in there as part of my rehydration routine. But also on the nutrition side, I am going to basically just try to eat as much as possible at my meals. I'm going to try to do a good job planning my meals ahead of time throughout this week, because I know I'm going to be tired. So I will plan some meals in the slow cooker, in the Instant Pot, that I can easily throw together good nutritious meals. I'm going to try to have recovery drinks after every workout, and as Liz recommended, I'm going to have tart cherry juice with each dinner. In terms of fatigue management, I am going to really pay attention to my sleep hygiene. I'm going to make sure, I'm not usually one that has a lot of electronics at night, but I'm going to make sure to schedule some wind down time, go to bed by 10 every night, take naps whenever I can. I will try to get a massage, but probably that's going to be next week during my recovery week, not this week. And of course, I scheduled this week knowing that I have a recovery week, an easier week than next week, on purpose. I'm going to pay attention to my Whoop scores, to my recovery scores. I'll talk more about that later on the daily videos, but I may use that to make some adjustments. Next concern would just be burnout. Want to make sure to include, I don't want this week to burn me out, of course, so I'm going to try to have some variety in training. I'm going to try to ride different bikes, ride the road bike, ride the gravel bike, ride the mountain bike, and have the group rides in here as part of the training, as you've seen. Now, although from it's not perfect training because it is not it's not very specific, but for something like this where I'm trying to get 30 hours in, it serves a purpose because I have the option of going a little bit easier if I need to, or going harder. I have, next concern would be heat, and just, I know it's May, I'm not acclimated to the heat yet, so I'm going to pay attention to the weather forecast. I'm going to try to ride early on my double days to space those two workouts apart, and also riding early on the longer days. Staying on top of my hydration, I already talked about, and making sure to wear some sunscreen. And final concern would just be general planning stuff, because there's really a lot of logistics and planning involved when you're talking about something like this, and also make sure it's valuable training, make sure you're getting something out of it, make sure it's not interfering with your work and family life. So I did talk to my wife. I was going to put a video of her up, but she didn't want any video evidence that she consented to this this crazy idea. But I have really tried to take her into consideration and our family. I usually make the dinners, the meals in our household, so I'm going to try to plan as much of that out as possible, and make sure that it is as little burden as possible to her, and also to my daughter. My daughter's at school usually between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. So I'm going to try to get during the week the majority of my training done then. Some of the group rides, that's obviously not possible. So on those nights, that I will either prepare a meal ahead of time, or we'll do some takeout maybe one night. And just in terms of my work, getting work done, I'm going to try to really get as much of my work done early in the week before I really start to feel my fatigue setting in. And finally, I'll just try to pay attention to the weather forecast and plan accordingly, especially if there's a lot of heat or if there's rain coming. Make some adjustments if possible. So let's get on with this and see how it goes.